So good afternoon, my amazing SUSR students and John. And one of our students in class has Tourette's, so we will forgive her. She keeps banging things. Okay, guys, let's have a glance at this. Evaluate environmental sustainability agency role in supporting interaction between humanity and environment. So you would have heard me ask this in class before, the idea of people who still go for hikes, people who go into the berg, who camps, who goes for hikes, does it regularly, who has been to any of the weather reserves, gone for hikes there. So you just run on tarps or whatever it is, asphalt. Okay, you know how much faster you would run if a lion were chasing you. Okay, so guys, in terms of the first one, humanity and the environment, I think it's this what we hope is a symbiotic relationship between what we can do from a sustainability perspective to make sure that the environment is around for the future. In the 1980s, a movie came out, Robocop, and in Robocop, they had factor 400 sun block. And it was just like painting somebody with this like real green gob. And the truth is, we now have got 100 factor sunblock because we've damaged. We've got 100 factor sunblock. And now I'm surprised that a ginger doesn't know that there's 100 factor sunblock. You don't wear sunscreen. But you're light skinned. Okay. Do you hear what was said? And it's expensive. So I think it's this interaction between us and nature and the fact that we have to find this kind of symbiosis between what we do in terms of impacting in the environment. And remember, in terms of the environment, it provides us with everything, but it also receives all our wastes. So every bit of waste that we create goes back into the environment, whether it is into landfill sites or whether we just, as South Africans do, pump it out into the ocean. So we've almost got this planet that we can refer to as a sink because all the rubbish that we collect go into the sink. So, in terms of trying to align humans with the environment, I think the first thing to remember, guys, and you're looking here at page 64, you'll see at the bottom there, I think it's this what they call societal revolution. And in the societal revolution, it was this realization that we are not here to simply take from the planet, that the planet is not just here for us to exploit and advantage ourselves. Because in reality, it's only sustainable if we do things to make it sustainable. So, from a very micro perspective, people require the planet to live. And the truth is, if we over extend what's on the planet, we will end up in a situation that we will, as a human race, not survive. We also know that every year we consume 2 planets worth of resources. So just to sustain the 8 point whatever billion people on the planet now, we need 2 planets worth of resources. So we see people like Larry Page, guy, one of the founders of Google, looking to start mining in terms of asteroids and finding alternatives. So Elon Musk saying that we need another planet to live on is not that insane, although Mars is massively inhospitable. Stephen Hawking, I mean, for me, one of the greatest minds in the world, alongside Albert Einstein, said that in order to survive, the human race must populate another planet because we will have an event that will completely destroy life on Earth. The problem with what humans are doing is that we're contributing to that destruction. So the thinking is that you want to almost start thinking of the planet as a usable resource that will run out and that we need to somehow find ways of sustaining it. It's a bit like having 1,000 rand in the bank. If you keep spending and spending and spending and not leaving any money in the bank for it to gain interest, that money will run out and we're going to run out of planet. It's as simple as that. So we talk about this linear economy, and it really is just what we take from the planet and we turn into products, and we then use the planet as a waste disposal place, and we dump our waste into that. That is the linear idea. And certainly, guys, we can almost imagine up to the 1970s and 80s. That's how we saw the planet, that it has been given to us to use and exploit whatever minerals they are, whatever natural resources they are. And then once we've created products, what we don't use is used as dumped back into the planet. The other part is this idea of the circular economy. So we try and get as much resources as possible from the planet, but we also do it in a way that we allow for land, for example, to recover. So my silly example of Mondi harvesting trees in one area and planting saplings in another area. And it's a wonderful example of the circular economy because we still need resources to survive, but it is taking resources, but making sure that we replenish those resources in another way. So the move towards green has really been around this circular economy. And there are lots of examples. I've seen a number of my friends that have gone off the grid completely, that are solar, they drive electric vehicles. There's a lecturer on campus who has solar at home and he drives an electric vehicle. So he doesn't take any electricity from anywhere other than what he produces. He doesn't buy petrol. So you can see it's almost this idea that from a micro perspective, people are going green. And the so-called societal revolution is the fact that we have to change our paradigm in terms of how we view the planet. It is not something to exploit, but it's rather something to be grateful for. That we can take the resources, that we can use the resources, but we need to make sure that somehow we put those resources back into the planet so that we are sustainable. There's nothing much to write. There's a lot in the case study. They talk about the systems thinking approach. You guys would have done the systems theory. And some of you might even use the systems theory in your research, where in a broader system, you are humans would form part of the broader system, and changes in that system, we need to find ways of accommodating those changes. So the fact that we have the sun that's got harsher, the way we've adopted in order to align ourselves with the system is we now use factor 100 sunscreen. Who has seen factor 100? Have you not seen? John, you're also very pale. I mean, you can't go in the sun. Where do you use sunscreen? Hmm? You live indoors.
Indoors. It's outside.
Where did you learn to speak, Oak? Have you got a, I'm being recorded here. Indoors, okay. Who stays out of the sun? Because I don't. But I use sunblock. Well, you don't have a choice. You live indoors, boy. So you put sunblock on when you walk here? Okay. Because you are fair skinned, though. I can't say what I want to say because I'm being recorded. Yes, it's keeping the Aryan race going. Oh, somebody's going to listen to that on this recording. So, and just remember, in terms of the systems thinking, is the fact that everything in a system needs to align with everything else. So, as there are changes in the external system, we need to adjust our internal system. So, we form part of the broader, I suppose, ecosystem in this instance. The one thing we know about the systems theory is that there's this thing called entropy, where the system, because it's misaligned, things start collapsing. So we see in certain instances that there are communities that don't have water, that have to ship in water because of entropy that has taken place. And remember, there's also the idea of synergy, where 1 + 1 is 3 from a systems perspective. I think the truth is, guys, we need to realize the value of the planet, and that our actions in terms of exploiting the resources on the planet, over consuming the planet, causing damage to the environment, will have consequences. If we think of Donald Trump, oh dear gosh, who's going to listen to this? The simple truth is, he thinks about the economy as something linear, as our relationship, because, it's the idea of drill, baby, drill, where Joe Biden, for all his faults, realized we needed to go more green. He thought of it as a circular economy. I don't think there's anything else, guys, you can write and read on pages. So just for the record, it's page 64 to 67 at the top. Um, yeah, so there are a couple of other things. The idea of earth stewardship. It's this notion that we are given the privilege of using this planet, but as part of getting that privilege, we need to take care of the planet. We've been granted this opportunity, and as much as you want to focus only on consumption and consumption, it has also to look at the future. You'll see some other discussions in there, guys. The second question, oh gosh, should have done that. Give me a second, because I cannot find. Then the assignment has disappeared on me. What is the second question, guys? Hold on a second. I found it. My apologies. Okay, so the second one, okay, challenges for sustainability. What page was this on, guys? Page 77. Page 77. This is challenges for sustainability. Okay, so we're looking at 77, top of 77s. I think the fact is that we cannot just assume that we are going to be sustainable. The reality is that it requires a set of actions, it requires a set of policies, it requires a set of agreements for it to happen. So, in terms of the kind of things that we have, is that the first challenge is not to use sustainability as a way of greenwashing, where it's a gimmick, where we promise everyone that we've gone net zero, and in reality, we still pollute and still overconsume. So the first rule is that the danger with using sustainability and using it as an advertising slogan, but not following through, is that awful phenomenon of greenwashing, where you literally just paper over the dodgy things that you do. So, in terms of some of the other challenges, guys, I think the second one is to look at how to manage sustainability. I don't think it's an automatic thing. A lot of people initially used to tag it on to an HR role. And we now know that within really good organizations, from a sustainability perspective, you will have a specific department dedicated to it. You will have in your board of directors certain guidelines that they'd have to agree to in terms of supporting sustainability. And included in that would be governance. And included in that would be governance. Right. And then the other bits and pieces in terms of sustainability, guys, I think the fact is that there are many definitions around sustainability. Um, it depends on who you ask. For one person, it's doing as little as possible. For others, it is the Woolworths approach. I mean, I try to contrast what Spar does and Woolworths, and we'll do that at some point. And it's vastly different in terms of their approach. I think the Woolworths approach is far more comprehensive. I think also in terms of creating a business model that allows sustainability, it's moving away from the initial definition of what CSR meant, and that the role of an organization is to make profits, and profitability and not making profits, in fact, is illegal because you're detracting from your shareholder value. So it is a change to stakeholders versus shareholders. And then, yeah, there are a couple of other bits and pieces, guys, that you can have a look at. The Brundtland report we've spoken about a number of times. It is to find that balance between wealth now and wealth in the future. And maybe a better way to describe it is profits now and sustaining wealth for the future. Remember, we spoke about changing those definitions of what it means nowadays to be sustainable. Okay, so that is the second one. Trying to see if it's worth doing this. I think, guys, let's leave it at that. What is the third page? The third page that I'm looking at, page 17. Okay, so three dimensions. We've done this a number of times, so we'll just get to 70 quickly. Shucks, that was silly. Okay, so in terms of the three dimensions, guys, you now know these, that it's economic, environmental, and social. We've seen this as the triple bottom line and discussed as the triple bottom line. From an economic perspective, you will remember that it is about what we do to look after the interests of, in particular, our shareholders. So shareholders have to have a say. Without the shareholders, the company wouldn't have had the initial investment to actually be created. So, from an environmental perspective, yes, we've got to support the natural environment, but we have to have that balanced view on this. Economic perspective will always be because of the interests of the shareholders. And that means profits and making profits so that we can pay out dividends. From an environmental perspective, this would be the natural environment. It would be where we take our resources from, and also where we dump our waste into. So, from an environmental perspective, it's the idea of going green, the idea of becoming net zero. It's the idea of being carbon negative and taking carbons out of the air, in fact, and aiming to be carbon zero in the future. And then the social component is where we look specifically at the role of the organization in addressing community needs, in accommodating community interests. And we'll talk about Woolworths when we get to this in class, but how Woolworths essentially, for you to be a supplier to Woolworths, you need to show that from an economic perspective, you actually adhere to whatever financial regulations apply. From a natural environment, you need to show that you're sustainable in your farming methods. And from a community or social perspective, you need to show that you are there to assist and almost create wealth within the community. I don't think there's anything else to discuss there, guys.